Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to answer a famous question in the houseplant community, which is, should you be using filtered water or not? If you go across any sort of plant influencers content or on Instagram, you'll see people preach the idea of needing to use filtered water with your plants. Filters like this one that attach onto your hose are used. Reverse osmosis systems are used that are usually like $200 full bolt-on systems that take everything out of the drinking water. And then simple things like the Brita filter in your home. Some people will also state the need to use distilled water, but this has been my take on it. I've been growing plants in hydroponics with tap water for about 14 years. And I have filters like this one by Boogie Brew. It's a company out of Northern California. These are great for outdoor watering and if you're creating your own compost tea to really bring up the microbes in your soil. This is a great tool for taking the chloramine out of your tap water. I also have had a reverse osmosis system in the past where it strips out everything out of your water, all of the minerals as well as the chlorine, and it brings your parts per million, the salts in your water, down to zero or just about zero. For houseplants and plants in LECA, what I've found is that it usually creates more problems. And this is why. Assuming you have a decent source of tap water, reverse osmosis systems and this sort of Boogie filter, these filters take out the chlorine or chloramine that's put in by your water utility to sanitize and sterilize your water so that then microbes and living things can then live in that water. That's a good thing if you're having fish or kind of breeding your own microbes for soil. But it can be a really bad thing when we're growing in hydroponics, because in hydroponics, we're mostly doing things aseptically. So we're doing things without life. I've talked a lot about hydrogen peroxide and chloramine and chlorine and adding that bleach back into the water to sterilize that water. And when you're using a filter, you're just ripping out that thing that the water agency worked so hard to put into the water. And the second, probably biggest issue it creates, I immediately get calcium and magnesium issues. And then once I see I have a calcium or magnesium deficiency, I then go and buy an expensive nutrient like CalMag from Botanicare, which I've seen other plant people talk about using. But if you look at your tap water report from your water agency, utilities must provide consumer confidence reports outlining exactly what's inside your tap water. So for me, I'm in Los Angeles. My water source is LADWP. It's a massive water utility and electrical. And they provide me with this report that kind of breaks down all of the different parts per million of these nutrients in my water. So with the exception of a few places that don't have good quality groundwater or tap water, it's completely fine to use regular tap water out of your sink instead of investing in a super expensive reverse osmosis system that then pours out the waste line. Usually in most RO systems, there's a waste line that kind of spits out about 30 to 50% of the tap water. And we're in a drought here, and you just run it down the drain. And in that tap water, that waste line that goes out is usually all of your calcium and magnesium and a bunch of other trace minerals called micronutrients. So to summarize, I don't think at all you need to use filtered water. I never have to grow any of these plants. I have about 1,000 plants here at a time, and I've never used it successfully. I always end up putting back into the water the chlorine through bleach and or this CalMag to supplement the trace minerals I stripped out. And then on top of it, I need to change out the water filter membrane, this membrane itself. And the great thing about houseplants is that they're not consumable. So at the end of the day, we're not ingesting this. Plants have a great way of actually dealing with heavy metals and toxins of that nature that are found in water. Many plants are actually accumulators of heavy metals, and they're used for remediation of waste spill areas. So these plants are really amazing. As we talked about before, a lot of these plants are actually air purifiers. They remove the volatile organic compounds out of the air. So filtering the water prior to giving it to them, it just seems kind of silly. Now, for your family or your household, go ahead and use a Brita water filter or RO water filter. Most people actually find that the small amount of mineral in their water actually tastes better. And finally, there's a third component, which is it changes the pH of your water. Stripping out minerals from your water, it should technically increase the pH of your water. And we want most of these plants that were in LECA, we're gonna stabilize the pH, but the plants we have in aeroid mix, we want to sit around that 7.0 neutral water, which LADWP comes in at about 7.5 pH. And then into that soil, it will drop into the 6s, which is ideal for aeroids. Again, the main caveat is if you live in a place with really poor quality of water. If your hardness scale is kind of above the 400 to 500 parts per million, your water company will say this. It's also shorthanded as mg per liter, mg/L, and that is the same as parts per million. So I hope this cleared up a lot of the questions around filtered water, and I just think unless you really need it, don't use filtered or distilled water for your houseplants. We're not eating them, so it doesn't really matter. If you did like the video and or learn something new, go ahead and click the subscribe button down below. We just passed 5,000 subscribers. Thank you guys all so much. It's been a super fun road to get here, and I'm excited to go to the next level. And head on over to our Instagram where we're making 1 reel extra per week. And soon enough, you guys will see 2 videos per week. That is our goal coming up for this next year. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next Saturday.